Well, welcome everyone to this month's virtual happy hour featuring Cochiti Pueblo artist Virgil Ortiz. Tonight on the 341st anniversary of the 1680 Pueblo Revolt, Virgil will unveil his latest project, Evolution Eventually. Will be the first to view this collection. Most of you know that these events are made possible by the generous support of the SAR President's Circle. If you'd like more information about joining, by all means, contact me or Lindsay Archuleta. If you're not a member of the President's Circle, we always welcome a voluntary donation in support of this event. You know, we started these at the beginning of COVID. We thought we'd be phasing it out for live in-person events, but COVID had other ideas. So we're staying virtual for the immediate future, and we'll see how things go after that. Virgil Ortiz is from Cochiti Pueblo. As I mentioned, his work brings together decorative art, fashion, video, and other media. One of the most innovative potters of his time, Virgil's works have been exhibited in museum collections around the world, including the Netherlands and France, as well as the Smithsonian Institution's National Museum of the American Indian, the Virginia Museum of Fine Art, and the Denver Art Museum, and I guess now the museum, MIA in Minneapolis, right? That's what you were discussing as we got started. Virgil was the youngest of 6 children. He grew up in a creative environment in which storytelling, collecting clay, gathering wild plants, and producing figurative pottery was part of everyday life. His grandmother, Laurencita Herrera, and his mother, Seferina Ortiz, were both renowned Pueblo potters and part of an ongoing matrilineal heritage. Virgil keeps Cochiti pottery traditions alive, but transforms them, as I'm sure you already know, into a contemporary vision that embraces his Pueblo history and culture and merges it with apocalyptic themes, science fiction, and his own storytelling. Virgil, I'm handing it off to you. Oh,
Virgil, you're muted. Do you want me to go ahead and do the screen share? Do you want to say a few words about Tish?
Oh, no.
Okay, sorry. Now can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you now.
We are live.
We are live.
But thank you, Michael and Lindsay, for asking me to do this and be a part of SAR. I'm so excited to be here and see everybody's faces. But I want to totally introduce you to Tish. She's my manager out, resides in Los Angeles, but can't wait to see you in person as well. So
Likewise.
it's like all the information that you need to know, she can hook you guys up with, because she knows more about my life than I do. So I was like, okay, where do I go now? So she's the one that lets me know what I'm supposed to do. But thank you guys so much, and I give you guys a little bit background of what I do, how I do it, and why I do it. First slide, Lindsay. So it's just I was born into a family of potters on our mother's, Seferina Ortiz's side of the family. That's the, there you go. Okay, so on my mother's side, Laurencita and Seferina, all of them, like even our great grandmother, they were all potters. So like growing up in Cochiti, I would always remember our mom sitting at the dining room table, creating in clay, and I had no idea, like our whole family would do it. She never forced it on us or anything, but she always invited us to come work with her. So it was just really awesome. And I'm the youngest of 6 kids, so I was with my parents the longest, and it was just cool to not even know that art was being created on a daily basis. And just watching my mom, I'd always be there working with her, and she taught me everything that she knew. And we were all raised to make the traditional pots with the geometrical designs, earth elements and all, and also the figurative pottery, which were the storytellers. And I know you guys probably know what that is. It's the seated mother carrying all the babies and all, whether it be human or animals. But and our dad is a drum maker, so every day, like I thought, like all the kids would come home and go sit with their parents and create art, and I had no idea that one of our families, like one of the only ones to work with clay. And a collector by the name of Robert Gallegos, he would come around to the different pueblos, and he was a dealer out of Albuquerque. So he would make, yearly trips, or like maybe 4 times a year, to come to our households. And he knew me since I was like really small. And he had noticed that, yes, I was carrying on the tradition of what I was taught by our mom and our grandmother, but slowly my style started to change. And it was just funny how, and I think it's really important to tell you guys how I got it started like this. But when I was about 15, then all of my styles started changing. So I started making like figurative pottery, standing, and I started really discovering fashion, I guess. Like I started painting them completely different than what I was taught, like the storytellers, right? And Bob was asking my parents, like, who's teaching this kid how this type of pottery that he's making? And they just told him that I was just experimenting, which was the truth. And he said, okay, well, can you bring him down to the showroom? And at that time, we'd never been to a showroom in Albuquerque. So our parents had packed me up. We went to go check out his studio in Albuquerque. And I was about 15 or 16 at that time. And when we went into his showroom, like my parents and I's mouths hit the ground, because we had no idea that Bob had the largest collection of historic Cochiti figurative Pueblo pottery. And what I was experimenting on without seeing these pieces looked exactly like them. So my parents, after we closed our mouths, our parents pulled me outside to our car and explained it to me of how they did not teach me anything of what I was doing. And the clay was speaking through me and to me. So they just wanted me to remember this day of what we all had seen together and witnessed together at one time. So we went back in, and from that point on, Bob had invited me to go in and look all of his pieces, touch them, study all the designs of how they painted them. And that was like the best resource we could have as a family of creating these figurative artworks. But the next slide. So just being, again, raised, and from a kid, we would always go collect all of our materials, and we hand dig our own clays right off Cochiti Reservation. So this is an example of me and my nephews going to go dig the clay. Next one. So the clay comes out of the ground very damp, and it's very heavy. It's like dark chocolate, right? And so we have to dig it out of the clay veins. But then when we first approach the clay vein, we have to feed the area, feed the earth, and ask permission, introduce ourselves, state our purpose, and ask permission to harvest clay from her. So we take as much as we can carry, because we have to hike up to the area where we get it. And the vehicles can't make it up there anymore, because it's just the roads are really messed up. So we definitely have to work to collect the clay. The next slide. Another part of Cochiti is we go to collect the temper, which is crushed pumice stone, volcanic ash, and it comes out of the earth pretty pure. Next one. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to really bring my nieces and nephews along with me and show them exactly what my siblings and I went to get experience when we're kids. So we pack lunches, our mom did it. We have a good time all collecting the materials, and they're learning exactly where we collect them from and how to do it, how to process it. So next slide. So when we get the clay home and the temper, we have to process the clay. So it, like I told you, it comes out of the earth still damp. So we have to plan a year ahead. So we let the pieces of the clay chunks dry for a whole year till they're bone dry. Once they're bone dry, hanging out in the barn, then we get them and then we start crushing them. I just use a large steel pole and an old coffee can. So I crush them all up into like 1/4-inch size pieces, and then I rehydrate it, because if you try to rehydrate it while it's still damp, it does not let it soak right. So you'll have pieces of pure clay within the clay body, and that causes cracking and explosion. So you have to go through this whole process of letting it dry. And also the clay temper, when we get it home, next slide, is when we have to, it comes out as chunks as well. And I just put on my combat boots, put it on some canvas material and stomp on it, and it gets really powdery. And then I have to sift it like twice through 2 different types of screen, and it comes out like baby powder. So what you're seeing me here is like mixing those two, the temper and the clay together. So there's really no measuring of how we get the consistency of what, or like a measurement, I guess, a recipe, but we're very protective of our clay. We don't waste, we try not to waste any of it. So if I know I'm going to make a certain size pot or a figure, then I know more or less of what size of clay ball I need to use. But to test the clay, we run our fingers through it, and it leaves either a textured trail or either a sleek trail. And if it's too sleek, it means it needs more temper. So you have to get it to the right consistency that way. That's how we more or less gauge of how much of each clay and the sand that we need to mix. So the next one is how we have to make our wild spinach paint. So every year the wild spinach starts to bloom its purple flowers, then that's kind of like a little alarm clock of letting our families know when to go pick the plant. So we go and collect, usually like when all my nieces and nephews are there, we collect like 8 33-gallon size garbage bags full of them. And we only can get just the leaves, no stems or nothing. Put them into big pots of boiling water, and it takes about a week of boiling to get the juice that we're after. So like maybe after 5 days, and we get a cotton rag and strain it from what you see on the right-hand side, and we're after the juices. Next slide. So once we combine all the juices and it comes down to about half a gallon, we take it indoors, able to let it caramelize, get really thick, and we're just watching how the thick the bubbles are coming up. Certain point we add sugar to it, and you have to make sure that you do not burn it at this point, because if you do burn it, it's not going to stick onto the white clay slip, so you lost a whole week of work. So once you pull it off of the heat, then we drizzle it onto corn husks and we dry it that way. So again, we let it dry for a whole year. Around the 6-month period, it's like taffy, you can still bend it, but above the year mark, you could crack it. It's like kind of like a Jolly Rancher. You crush it up, rehydrate it, and that's what we use to decorate our pottery. Next one, once the piece is all sculpted and the white clay is slipped all around it, it's decorated, then we only fire one piece at a time. So it's with traditional pit fire. So we use aspen and cedar wood and cow manure. We build a little igloo around one individual piece that is covered by chicken wire to be able to put a little barrier so the cow manure doesn't touch the piece. We have to light it on each side and make sure that it burns straight up and it just brings the heat from the bottom upward and the smoke doesn't touch the piece. Also, my nephew developed these steel pieces, a barrel and a little piece that sits off the ground. So that is a little bit safer way how we can fire it during the colder months, but it's the same kind of pit firing that we use on both of them. Next slide. So this is like one of my biggest pieces that I've done, a traditional pot. And this is very, using the old school family designs. That is like the sun and moon, the wild spinach designs, the clouds, the rain, the thunder, the Kiva steps and all. And that's how I learned. But also the next slide is the first image that I seen of Ben Wittick's photo. That had stuck in my brain since I was maybe 20 or something, and I always wanted to recreate this image, and asked my family members to pick out one of these pieces to try to recreate them. And I got this image from Bob Gallegos that he had in his collection. So all my family members picked one of these pieces to recreate. And then the next slide is how we staged it, photographed it. I dropped out the background and I put in our own background that I took when we were in Prague at the Charles Bridge. So we pretty much recreated these pieces, and there was 22 or 21 pieces. I'm not too sure, I can't remember, but Cartier Museum purchased it for their permanent collection, which is really awesome to be in part of their collection with my whole family. Next one. So along came fashion works and trying to really take all of my traditional designs from the clay works and tweak them a little bit so that I'm able to transfer them onto garments and silks and leathers, handbags, all that. Next one. And then I was able to show the people how I let these two different mediums work together and inspire one another. So sometimes I'll create a model wearing the character that I have designed and then create in clay. Sometimes I create it in clay first and then design the model's outfits. But you can see exactly how they're captured and influence each other in these samples here. Next one. More samples of just how the clay influences my fashion. So a lot of the mermaid skirts come, and yeah, like I consider these kind of like my sketches. Instead of really, I don't sketch too much on paper if I don't need to. I rather just go dive right into it and start creating it out of clay. And it helps me design their silhouettes and figure out the patterns and the sew lines, the seams of how I'll create that garment. Next one. So more examples again of how the different materials, spandex, leather, cotton, how it all just works together. Next one. More samples again of the unisex styles and all the, this is a bee maze design that represents the never-ending quest to find a cure for cancer. Both our parents and our sister were both taken by cancer, but this is a design that you'll always see in all the different types of medium that I do work in. So that's what this design stands for. Next one. So again, you'll just see like the difference, like the res spine design is like the zigzag pattern here. And that represents the step ladders coming up out of our kivas. Our kivas are the round homes that we do our ceremonial dances in, but it also represents like when we go in and out of it, when we come out of it, it's like the portal to our next life. So that's what the res spine design means in all of my pieces. A sample of the duffel bag. And then the next slide, I was lucky enough to work with the mega designer Donna Karen back in the day, and it was just fun to work with her and be able to, it felt like I went to Fashion Institute of Art like in 2 months when I worked with her. And it was just so amazing how to see their whole team works together. Next slide. And how all of it is just a well-oiled machine, and like how the production of it, the designing, the cut and sew, printing. Next slide, Lindsay. Yeah, so then again, it always, what else can we create from it? Then it goes to home decor. And one of my most favorite movie stars and model is Mila Jovovich, and she was a star of that campaign. And when we had done the photo shoot for the campaign, it happened to be, it's a secret location, and they didn't let us know where it was until just the day before that we were supposed to go. And I had to take my pottery so they could stage it next to the model and the clothing. And it turned out to be old Blue Eyes house. So I was like, what? This is so crazy. Frank Sinatra. So I was okay. So it was just an amazing photo shoot, and to experience like what a mega designer, how they present their work, it just blew my mind. Next one. So this was when it went to the New York catwalk scene, and to witness all of these major models, fashion models that I would always see in magazines wearing these pieces was really an intense time and a really crazy thing to see, but it was so awesome, inspiring. Next one. So this was where she does a magazine, what we're looking at, and she was able to let me tell the story of where all of the designs come from. So I was able to educate the fashionista crowd about where the designs come from, lead them right back to Cochiti of all the traditional Cochiti clay work. So it was really awesome to have that podium to be able to explain to all of the people that would normally not look at Pueblo pottery, and to educate them where they came from. Next one, another medium I worked in. Some of you may have seen this, and it was also a hospitality suite company called Dynamics, and they're based out of Las Vegas. And they had challenged me to design what I would see in a hotel suite, a room, or in, you know, carpet and everything. Next one. So we had put this together at I forget what gallery this was at. That's Shiprock Gallery. Yes, right in on the Santa Fe Plaza. So in this, you're able to see the carpet, the chase lounge, the love seat, the duvet, the bed, the headboard, the lamps, the mirrors, the desk, the chairs, everything in it that you, and the wallpaper as well, that you would see in a hotel room. So I was able to work with those people that work in hospitality design that revamp and build casinos all over the world. Next one. So the main, what I wanted to do is like to educate the world about the Pueblo Revolt and how I was supposed to do that. Next slide is like, I was so affected by Star Wars as a kid when I was 7 years old. So I was like, oh dang, write a feature film, duh. Okay, so I don't want to reinvent the wheel since I was able to learn so much, all the characters, the costumes, all where they all came from. So I wrote a movie script about the Pueblo Revolt. Next one, and it's happening in 1680 and 2180, 2 different time dimensions. So it allows me to bring in a sci-fi aspect to the storytelling, and I love doing that. So this is what you see, all the characters coming together, and you know, I'm lucky to have friends that are willing to be models and let me paint on them, and we'll be jumping around the studio, getting the best shot. And you know, just by trial and error, I taught myself how to body paint and to work with foam fabrication, like with the beaks and all, and you know, making wings. It's just a fun thing to do, and we all enjoy when we create these characters. Next one. But that was just my way of how to create characters that all of these, I designed 19 groups of characters that represent the 19 pueblos that are still left in New Mexico today. So if you've been following my work, you know the different shows that I release a character every major show that I do, whether it be like Charles King Gallery or a museum. And so I'm slowly releasing my movie script at the same time. So you'll see all the different, like the blind archers, the aeronauts, the translator army, they all represent different pueblos. And I haven't named them who they belong to yet, but that's my intention. Next one. And I love working with, I taught myself Photoshop. So it's just all of the costuming that goes together. And again, just trial of error, making all the weapons out of necessity because they never existed. That some of the more far out ones that you see. Next one. And then combining it with Photoshop, taking pictures like at White Sands, and then creating these are the aeronaut spaceships. They're called the survivor ships, and they're transporting people to and from Earth's realm, but the aeronauts are the pilots of these survivor ships. So next one are the 2 main characters of my the storytelling that I do, and like the head heroine is a woman for women empowerment, and her name is Ta'u. Ta'u is the leader of the blind archers. So she is Pope's sidekick and helps Pope pull off the Pueblo Revolt in 1680 and also in 2180. So then along with the characters, and of course like the invaders, I had to design something cool for them too. So you see the Castilians coming in with really cool RoboCop looking silver chrome outfits. Next one. And again, just to use any types of material that I would pick up, I would watch videos like on YouTube and try to learn how to foam fabricate and make them look like they're metal. So it worked out really well because I started working and teaching at different universities or doing lectures like this, and I'm able to connect with the students. And when I was at ASU teaching when the pandemic hit the first time, the next slide, these were 2 of the fashion students that I worked with, Kenyatta and Remington, and they really took to what I was doing. They were very interested, and they're going out of their way to help do photo shoots and video shoots. And out of like 46 fashion students that I gave lectures to, these 2 were the ones that came to my on-site video and photo shoot. Next one, and they're able to learn exactly how we do the photo shoot, how to work with models. You know, everybody has to work together as a huge team to get the right shot and the right videos. So I had asked their professors at ASU, like, you know, I'm working on this other project creating costuming. Next one, creating costuming, and like, you know, can I hire them to be the models to work with me? And they said, yes, please do that. So these are samples of us all working together. Next one. So some of the outfits that we did create, some of the aeronauts that we took, we photographed them where we get the clay from, right in Cochiti land, right? And then next slide is another one. Some of the students that I work with all dressed up in them. And this was part of a recycled show, recycled materials. Like, so the middle image was made out of recycled billboards when I had a show up at the Fine Arts Center in Colorado College. So they had like really big billboards and they're wrapped in this type of plastic material. So I was able to ask them when the show came down if I could get that material. So I used that as recycled to make all of the aeronaut costumes. Next one, and the funny thing about it was that all of the different departments that I work with, like the printing, the fashion, the music, of course, the ceramics and Southwest studies, all these different professors, they ended up wanting to model. So some of these guys that you see in there are all professors. It's pretty cool. So the next one, okay, I'm getting my 30-minute mark alarm, but do you guys recognize this person? Very iconic, back in the day, always dressing up, very silver costuming, like, you know, Ziggy Stardust and before Madonna, Grace Jones. Next slide. So this person visited Santa Fe Indian Market, and it turned out to be this group, LaBelle, and they're the ones that sing "Gitchy Gitchy, yeah, 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 yeah." You guys all know that song. So it was pretty cool to meet Nona Hendricks on the left in person. And next slide. So she had asked me when she's seen the aeronauts in a magazine if I could possibly work with her to design her costuming. And I was like, yes, totally, I'll totally do it. And she goes, I like this character. Can I please be aeronaut? And in the stylistic aesthetic of it, they're always completely in black because they're all stealth black. Of course, he was like, I love that, but like, you know, I'm working at the Kennedy Center and they're opening the new wing called the Reach. I'm doing a parade and I need to be on the parade float, but I need to be all chrome. So I was like, what? So then next slide. So I said, okay. I said, it was just funny because like they had hired her to be on the float. And at the same time, she didn't even know that they hired me as well to go do lectures and be a part of this opening. So it was perfect that I would be there the same time she was going to be there. So I got to sketching and I drew her outfit. And I had asked her, I said, could you wear high heels like on the float or while you're performing? And she was like, child, do you know who I am? She goes, give me whatever you can give me. So I ended up picking out these chrome boots. I started with that base and they were like 6-inch stiletto heels. So she was like, no problem. Okay, do it. So she okayed this sketch. And then the next one is how it came out. So we did fittings and that's how she looked. She looked like a big disco ball on the float, and which was really awesome. So she got her wish of being all chromed out aeronaut. The young man on the left side, his name is Foster Romano, and I met him when he was 14 years old. Him and his dad, Daniel Romano, took my workshops while at Colorado Springs, so because my workshops were open to the public. And he is on the spectrum. He's dyslexic and ADD, and I also have dyslexia and ADD as well. So we connected really good with each other. We understood each other, and it turned out he and his dad were both metal sculptors, and they worked with metal fabrication. And it was that when he had seen all of the weapons that I designed for all of my movie characters, he was just kind of telling me lame. And I was like, ouch. But it was just kind of funny because, you know, I have 39 nieces and nephews, but I'm used to that. So I said, dude, you want to work with me? And is it okay? And I asked his parents, and they're like, yes, please. So he listened to me describe the aeronauts. I showed him pictures of what I wanted them and how they were looking and like how their weapons were to be. So he, within not even 15 minutes, he had a sketch. He sketched like 10 different weapons. And he said, pick which one you like. And I told him which one I liked. And he went back to his computer aid design program on his computer, and he designed the whole weapon within 10 minutes. So he said, when do you need it by? And I said, probably like in about 3 weeks. And he goes, done. So when he was done, he made it all of wood and steel. And I asked if we could use it in my upcoming museum show. So now he's 17 years old, and he's traveled with us with the whole group. And his parents, because he's homeschooled, he's like super, super smart. And he's always like 4 steps ahead of everybody, all the adults, which is kind of funny to witness. But it turned out that, yeah, he's now the head of my fabrication department, and he makes all the weaponry that you see. So he's been with me at the Kennedy Center, the Austin Museum. And the next slide, after the Kennedy Center, then we got invited to the Met Museum with Nona. So she was going to do a performance in the huge Temple of Dendur. I mean, if you guys have been there, it looks like a football field. I almost passed out when I seen it. But she had a performance there, and she asked me if I could costume all of her, like, I think it was like 15 members of her band that they're going to perform. So Kenyatta and Remington, I had asked ASU, can they come with me? And they said, we can find a budget to send them with you. And it was so cool because these two students were so dedicated to what they were doing. So ASU sent them with me to be our helpers. And it was so cool. So this is us doing the fittings underneath the Met Museum next. And it was just really cool to have them by my side, and they sent them out there with them. And when we got back to ASU, all the other students were, why didn't you tell us you're gonna take them to New York? And I was like, man, they came by themselves and they worked their butts off. So I'll sign them, make sure if anybody invites you to do extracurricular work, just go take advantage of it and learn as much as you can. But these two students came with me, had a blast, and now they have that under their belt. Next one. So these are just samples of when we were hanging out and getting dressed in the waiting room underneath the Met, getting ready to do practicing. Next one. So it's just kind of funny, like it's, and then like walking through the Met to the stage, everybody's all clothed up, getting ready to go. If the lights are down, the whole Temple of Dendur was sold out. It was like, I mean, a little like a concert. It was pretty cool to be with her. And Nona's just so magic, and she's so kind, and letting us and put the students in the program and giving them credit for everything. She's just an awesome woman and a personal friend, and we're continuing to work together. So look for more projects when those come out. Next sample of us when she's on stage. So she looked like she was a big disco ball on stage in the Met. It was really cool. Next one. Some of the when we're going in the freight elevator, going to the stage. This image on the right was taken by Rolling Stone magazine, which was really pretty cool, or Billboard magazine, excuse me. Next one. This is the team that we took, and that's us with Nona, Foster, Kenyatta, Remington, and Tish, and me and Nona together when she was right after she performed outside on the float. Next one. So this is another what you'll see for an in-market, or I think it's back on online. We're restocked with some of our ready-to-wear lines, and it's called the Voltage Collection and sportswear. So coming up with the cold weather, I love to wear hoodies and just get you nice and snuggly and warm. But those will be available at Inn of Loretto at the pop-up shop there, and then also at the hospitality suite where we'll be at. Next one. Another sample where you can see what Tish is wearing. She's wearing this scarf, and it's a scarf with a wild spinach design. So there's maybe 6 new designs that you can check out. So those will be available soon too. Next one, sample of another type of scarf, the wrist binded scarf, and then also the V-Maze face mask, and also a workout outfit. Next one. Some more samples of the different hoodies that we do have. So you'll see again, like how all my nieces and nephews love these designs because they're just very geometric and bold, and they're over there doing their dances, It's kind of cool. But another project that I'm working on, I collaborated with my friend Justin Reese. Next one. And these we'll have some available at the suite, but it's we're able to collaborate to produce an exquisite collection of one-of-a-kind. These are all handmade, handcrafted soda fired pieces, and we're going to add to them, and you have ramen bowls like these, like what I have. I don't know if you can see that. Like there's the butterfly there. So these are pretty cool, and it's just been fun that he came with me to Wood Fire up in Wisconsin, and then we're going up to the Archery Bray in Montana next month to work at that prestigious ceramics heaven up there. And so we're going to work on really big pieces for my upcoming show that will be at the new Vladam Museum in Santa Fe. So that's opening next year around this time. So we're planning, we have to plan that much ahead because I'm going as big as I can with my ceramics now. And it's just fun to incorporate all these different younger people that are, what our parents told us. Like there's always going to be someone younger, hotter, more cooler, more talented, more, just help them along, because this is how we pass our traditions on. And just to really encourage them to have that backbone and go out and be able to do whatever they want and not be afraid of it. So Justin is one of my really good friends that you'll start to see coming into play once we start releasing all of this work. But the ramen bowls would probably go really quick, because especially during the winter time where everybody loves the deep bowls, right? Next one is what we're talking about earlier about the Minneapolis Institute of Art. So they purchased 5 pieces for the permanent collection. And this is Jag and Gage, also aeronauts, 2 ceramics pieces they bought, including the next slide with the lithographs that I did at Tamarind Institute in Albuquerque. So that was, you can see these at Hojo Pop-Up Gallery at Hotel Dorado once they open. But these pieces are pretty big. There's 3 different ones. One of them is a translator, and 2 of them are the Venusian soldiers. And you guys probably noticed that image from the Museum of Contemporary Native Art. They have that on the book. And those are the soldiers that are, in my storytelling, their Pueblo was bombed first. And that's why they're wearing all these gas masks, and they're very oily and sooty. And they're in the process of relocating their Pueblo to an area that has better breathing air quality to it. So that's why they're wearing all of the oxygen tanks around their necks and their gas masks. Next one is like, this is like a sample of how they're installing it now. So they have the whole huge wall mural of my nieces and nephews and Leslie as the blind archers. And then there's Kuda and Stu in their new vitrine, their new home. Next one, another sample of them just installing the whole mural. So it's just really fun to be able to educate everybody of the Pueblo Revolt using artwork. And I'm not going to stop until the world knows about what happened. So then the next slide is my Evolution Eventually series. And it's all about, like, this one took me a long time to design, but I love the whole idea behind it. It's about humans wearing masks that resemble a non-human face. And it's basically the evolution of the masses required to wear our personal protective equipment to minimize exposure to contamination, what we're going through. And also non-humans wearing masks to protect them from us humans. So it plays a little back and forth with that. And the whole series is always ongoing, just like the Taboo series. But I think you guys will enjoy this, because sometimes I'm going to name them tricky names, so the viewers will have to guess who they are. But I wanted to show you one piece that is one of the first pieces from this series. And it's just kind of funny because a longtime collector of mine, his name is Kent Logan, and he had approached me about this series, and he wanted to participate in this whole process and experience of how Cochiti potters go into historical times, of how they always captured people as caricatures in clay. And it was kind of like creating a timeline and to really capture who these people were, non-Indigenous people, and also just a social commentary and all the subject matters that I conceptualize and create. But his wife had asked me to be a part of this, because it's kind of cool that the collectors, right, they know the whole history about these historic pieces and what they are. And it's just kind of fun to be a part of this whole storytelling of it. But she had asked me, is it cool that he could be a part of this Evolution Eventually series? So she secretly sent me some pictures of Kent, and I created this alien body. And I made that alien body wearing a face of his, which is a mask, and you could see it in this next image. But it was just kind of funny. So I got like a couple of private commissions to do some of these, and it's just kind of funny how, I'm really teaching myself how to sculpt like realistically now. So and using high fire techniques and the different types of clay, so I could go with like chrome stuff or really shiny looking metal surfaces. So it's just kind of fun to be a part of this. But definitely be on the lookout for this type of work coming out, and maybe one of you guys will be the next one of the next characters in it. Next slide. But it's an ongoing, and you'll see this. Another exciting thing that I was able to do, which is, I need to take a drink really quick. Sorry. Cheers, everybody. Happy hour. I'm excited to show you guys this. You guys are the first ones to see this, and for the past 2 or 3 years, I've been working with Charles King, one of my good buds, and also the Museum of New Mexico Press, and finally I'm getting our own book. So it's just really, it's hard to explain to everybody how I do and how all the different mediums fit together. So having this book, it's like 240 or 250 pages, an art book that shows everybody how, and it's not traditional type of book, because when I met with the staff of Museum of New Mexico Press, Charles had already worked with them before, and I think he's done like 3 books with them. So I had went in there and I had printed out all my ideas of what kind of aesthetic that I would love to, if I were to do a book, I would love to show them like what I thought the book would look like. So when I met all of their team, they're like, whoa, why do you already have a book? And they said, well, you know, if you want to work with David Skolkin, he's the head designer. Like, if you want to collaborate with him, that will be okay with us. I was like, yes, I'll totally jump at the chance. So when I worked with David, we went through, Charles wrote the books, the author, and Karen Kramer out of the Peabody Essex Museum wrote the forewords. But it was really cool to be able to search all the images that we had, and it's just incredible to see how much work that we've actually made in the years, and to try to break it down. That was the hardest thing to do, was to edit everything. But once we started designing it, David Skolkin, the designer, said, go ahead and give me like the first 2 chapters. So I went with what Charles was talking about, what we wrote in the past, and then I was picking out the images. So I got really into it and super excited. So I gave him the first 5 chapters, all designed. And he showed his whole team. David was like, what? You did 5 already? And so they came back with me, Lisa, and I can't remember who else it was, but they came back and they said, well, you've already done like half of the book. Do you want to do the whole book? So they gave me that honor and that chance to design the whole book myself. So here's another, a couple of sneak peek images. Next slide. And here's the cover. We just got it, and I went up to Santa Fe yesterday to go okay the cover and look at it and make sure everything is how we wanted it to be. And like the name, my logo on the name is embossed, stamped in, and it's foiled. It has Charles' name on there. The back of the cover has aeronauts walking up towards the pot. And the book's title is called Revolution. So you guys are the first ones seeing it. Here's the inside, some of the images, the spreads. So it's not your average book, but it's definitely a look into all of the different series and topics and all social commentary of what I've done since I was a wee little man. Next one. So it just it's fun. You're gonna love, and this is how I design it. So I love areas where David Skolkin can go in and add the copy to it. So I designed these as what I seen how that would best portray them. But normally, like a press wouldn't let you put an upside down person on it, right? But they trusted my design aesthetic and they let me do it. So it's just kind of cool to invite everybody to see like how not only the design of it, but just to have a real background peek into all of the different socially commentary pieces that I do have. Next one. And as you can see, like it's just very, I don't even know I hate to use the word artsy, but how it's designed, and I incorporate all the models, the costuming. So everything is really all showing the viewer how all the different mediums work together, including design, the fashion, the garments, the printing, the clay, models, dancing, everything. So next one. And you'll notice some of the different shows that I did, like this one was called Transfigured, which is combining human and animals mixed together. And that just kind of goes back to historic times as well. Like some of my great grandparents, like when they made pottery, I didn't know if it was a dog, a duck, or a moose. I don't know what they were. It's kind of fun to guess what they're doing. So this is exactly where this all comes from, and it's just reviving that type of sculpting and artwork, because it's a dying art form in Cochiti, which is really sad. And I dedicated my life after I went down to Bob Gallegos, and I had seen that incredible experience, and I knew that I was going to work with clay for the rest of my life. So, and seeing that connection, having the resource with Bob to be able to visit them and to be with them, I knew that that was what I would have to do, along with creating a story about the Pueblo Revolt and educating the world using the art. So those are the two reasons why I feel that I'm here, and I won't feel successful until I know the younger generation from my family or the Pueblo, when they pick up this type of work and make sure that connection is made to the next generation. That's the only time I'll feel successful. But yeah, that's what all of the book you'll learn in the book. So the next one is a little video of what I started working. I wanted to always do outside sculpture, and here with Daniel and Foster Romano, I hired them and designed the metal parts of the sculpture, along with high fire clay ceramics that could go outside and install them together. So you could see a little sneak peek of a preview of this piece here. It's also cinematic. I'm so excited though. Next slide. And this is again just to show a little behind and how we had to bring it from. I had to transport the piece back and forth, and of course my friends were like, "Yo, you're the only one to carry this ceramics." But it's really tough. I'm still experimenting with it. It's eventually going to get to casting bronze or steel or aluminum. So, but my first piece, I wanted to totally be what my main medium is, which is clay, traditional clay, and it's like everything else, all the different mediums orbit around that. So I wanted to have this original piece of clay outside. Next slide. And that's us carrying it on, putting it and loading it in my truck and trying to get it shot. We shot it, some of them up in Colorado and some of them at La Bajada Hill. And I wanted to have that connection of to have it photographed like by the red rocks, the clay on the side of the road from La Bajada. People were looking at us. It's just kind of funny to have it all shot and then installed at the end of Loretto. So you'll be seeing more working with heritage hotels, and they like I don't know. This the Anasazi, Hotel Chimayo, Hotel Santa Fe, the Lodge in Loretto, the Hoj, what is that place called? Where Hojo Gallery is called at Hotel Chaco in Albuquerque. So working with Jim Long, president of the Heritage Hotels, he's invited me to install different outdoor sculptures. So you'll see a lot of this coming out, like available for your home or or hospitality places, like public places like hotels or museums or whatever, what the like. So next slide is standing next to it, and that's Daniel Romano, Foster's dad. And this piece is called Foreseer, and it's a Pope, leader of the Pueblo Revolt. And I wanted to combine like the whole design of the res spine, the sun and moon, the clouds, the rain, the turkey track, the tops of our kiva steps. And this brings us to the closing of the presentation, but I'd like to bring this part of the presentation to a close with a quote from my mentor and hero, the late Herman Goy, Tish's father. And since Herman began the process of installing the statue of Pope in the US Capitol building and Statuary Hall, we have begun to see how this event speaks to the world today. And Pueblo people honor our ancestors and the legacy of Pope we take responsibility to each other's and this generation, the next, and to the world beyond the Pueblos. And we have the determination to preserve the teachings and history of our ancestors, and we defend this legacy and instill knowledge to those who know nothing of the Pueblo Revolt, to understand that we, the Pueblo people, have persevered in the face of oppression and overwhelming odds. And it's incredible to know that, like, since I was a kid, like, the Pueblo Revolt is not taught in schools, it's not in our history books. It's been swept under the carpet because of the genocide that happened to our people. So I really want to bring it to attention, everybody, to acknowledge of what our people went through, and we're still here creating, thriving, and presenting SAR with all of our new friends. So